Good afternoon, I guess, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're looking forward to sharing 5 years of, we were just joking, 5 years of findings in 15 minutes. So here we go. By the way, this was Catherine's idea. So um, we ready to go? So our presentation today provides highlights from the cumulative findings of a 5-year SSHRC-funded research project on the language learning and social integration experiences of migrants in 3 destination or transit countries characterized by an influx of newcomers, namely Canada, the United States, and Italy. The project is set within a contemporary global reality where international migrants represent 3.6% of the world's population, and where migrants confront a climate, as we know, of rising anti-immigration sentiment. In the context of our brief presentation today, the findings we share with you today aren't necessarily selective, as you may imagine, but they can bring into focus how the adult migrants in our study, who are often prevented from full participation, social participation, by the double jeopardy of language barriers and xenophobia, navigate integration into host societies. The project is migrant-centric. This is a term we're borrowing from the International Organization for Migration, by favoring migrant perspectives on their language learning needs and experiences. The focus is informed by a hybrid theoretical framework linking translanguaging and transnationalism. The effort here, the methodological and epistemological effort, is to enable conceptual fluidity by merging a process-oriented perspective on language use via translanguaging and a multi-directional understanding of migration via transnationalism.
So the project draws on an expanded data set of 76 online surveys and 18 follow-up interviews, consisting of a subsample of 6 migrants from each of our research sites, as well as 11 surveys with language service providers. The data were collected in 2021 from 3 research sites: the Greater Toronto Area in Ontario, Canada, Erie County in Pennsylvania in the United States, and the province of Agrigento in Sicily, Italy. In North America, migrant participants were enrolled in adult English language classes that moved online during the pandemic, while in Italy, participants were known to our research assistant, who is a freelance educational researcher. The 76 migrant participants in our project were born in various regions of the world. Across our 3 research sites, there are participants born in Africa, Asia, Central and Eastern Europe, Latin America and the Caribbean, and the Middle East. So this presentation considers the participants' self-reported language learning and social integration experiences. These findings include, first, the effects of the migrants' formal and informal language learning opportunities. Second, the migrants' social integration experiences related to language use. Third, the migrants' rich and complex struggles with agency in their translanguaging experiences. Fourth, the role that migrants' linguistic repertoires play in developing a post-migration identity. And finally, migrants' experiences of living a transnational life. And I need to point out that one of our amazing research assistants is here in the audience. So congratulations to Sarah for all the amazing work she's done over the years helping with this.
The first set of findings concerns the effects of migrants' formal and informal language learning opportunities. In our project, migrants highlight the importance of speaking and listening skills. Learners in all 3 of our sites focus on these skills for both formal learning contexts, that is language classrooms, and informal ones, that is out-of-class contexts. This preference can be understood as a direct effort at integration, since speaking and listening skills in the host country language can have an immediate impact on everyday life. And these findings contrast with pedagogy that has tended to prioritize linguistic competence rather than performance and the development of reading and writing skills. Notwithstanding this preference, our data also reveal systemic barriers to accessing language learning opportunities that can support host country language speaking and listening skills. Examples include both logistical and curricular issues. Logistically, these service providers identify a series of barriers. Nanny from the United States notes the following.
One of the biggest challenges is student attendance because of work schedule, as well as family health issues and children's school schedules.
TC, also from the United States, further notes,
transportation is often a barrier as well, so our agency tries to locate classes throughout the city and county.
Kika, a service provider from Canada, observes,
many adult learners are not attending ESL classes because they don't have a device or don't know how to operate the devices needed to enter an online class.
Kika elaborates this last point in relation to mismatched curricula.
They, the students, also complain about the many hours they spend learning grammar instead of communicating in the real world. Teachers and administrators need to bring the real world into the classrooms. They need to provide the technology in their classrooms to allow the students to connect and interact with others.
These findings reflect previous research indicating links between barriers to learning opportunities and social exclusion. For instance, migrants may not have ready access to language classrooms or the labor market, which means they miss out on opportunities to acquire and practice host country language skills.
The second set of findings concerns the migrant social integration experiences related to language use. In relation specifically to their language repertoires, as the following data suggest, host country translanguaging practices are prevalent among the migrant language learners, with over 75% indicating they will sometimes or often express something in one language if they're unable to express it in another. Further, building proficiency in the host language does not imply participants will cease to use their other languages. As we can see, nearly 90% believe they will continue to translanguage often or sometimes when they are more comfortable with the host language. These data suggest that migrants in our study use translanguaging as a potential resource for integrating into the host society, especially in large linguistically diverse urban areas. Translanguaging, however, can sometimes be less than positive. Manka, a 38-year-old mother of 4, originally from Somalia and now living in Canada, points to the ambivalence that can characterize translanguaging when linguistic resources are not equivalent across repertoires.
And then in my language, like if you say my stomach is, I'm experiencing ulcer. If you say that, you can't say that. In Somali, you say my stomach is bubbling. How do you supposed to say my stomach bubbly? Getting out from that side to this side, communicating is like in a limbo.
Indeed, not all of the participants experience the movement across linguistic repertoires as liberating. Moni, who was born in Pakistan and lived in India, United Arab Emirates, and the US before settling in Canada in 2018, shares this unpleasant experience.
Last 2 months ago, I go for dentist clinic. They are the Indian doctor. When I start the English with them, she asks, no, Moni. So they speak Urdu some words. She thinks maybe I can't understand English. I discomfortable.
Translanguaging, then, can both hinder and facilitate social integration, in the first instance by inviting ambivalence or censure, or in the second instance by expanding a migrant's linguistic repertoire.
The third set of findings concerns the migrants' rich and complex struggles with agency in their translanguaging experiences. The vast majority of the migrants reported having some degree of agency in their language learning experiences and language choices. Rehner, a 44-year-old man from Colombia and living in Canada since 2019, sees the host country language as functional.
I participate in class of English is my decision. What I understand English is, it's a tool. My class is a tool, is a good tool for my life.
Manka acts out of a personal desire to communicate.
You learn the language. It's something that you want to apply in your daily life. The way you talk to your children, you talk to adults, you talk to elderly, and you talk to other people, in the community or workers.
Chris from Congo and Tanzania, who now lives in the US, considers translanguaging, including nonverbal features, part of his larger repertoire of intercomprehension strategies.
I do the mix. This in English is a word that I don't know in English. I speak in Swahili. I speak in French. I use the hand to show someone that I don't know anything. I use my hand or I speak.
Notwithstanding agency in language choice and use, participants frequently mentioned struggles or challenges. Manka shares her frustrations.
Because I struggle with it. Yeah, throughout my lifetime, I struggle with it. It's one of the beasts that haunts you in bed. Grammar is my beast.
Moni shares a shifting relationship between her confidence and comfort.
When I came Canada, then I embarrassed feel. But now I'm proud I spoke English. I can't understand sometime, but then I feeling embarrassment.
Despite these very real struggles and anxieties, the migrants in our study pull the host country language into their linguistic repertoire as a matter of managing social integration in their everyday lives.
The fourth set of findings concerns the role that migrants' linguistic repertoires play in developing a post-migration identity. Our approach in responding to this focus has been to compose a series of narrative portraits of individual migrants. For our presentation today, we will share highlights from Tilissa, a 43-year-old mother of one child born in Romania and living in the Sicilian province of Agrigento since 2004. For Tilissa, drawing on her linguistic repertoire is complicated in the Sicilian context, where rather than a relationship between host language and minority languages, migrants encounter pre-existing dialectical competition between Italian and Sicilian. To some extent, Italian and Sicilian are intercomprehensible, though they share a complex, pragmatic, psycholinguistic, and sociolinguistic relationship. So for Tilissa, how she deploys her linguistic repertoire depends on a variety of factors, like who she's talking to. For example, avoiding Italian while mixing Romanian and Sicilian with her sisters who live locally. She further explains that drawing on her language repertoire is informed by the social situation or even her emotional state.
Obviously, I speak in Italian when I go to the bank, with the teachers at school, even with a person who doesn't know me. In general, I speak in Italian. Maybe I often speak Sicilian when I'm angry. Maybe at home with my husband when I have a few chosen words to share with him.
Tilissa elaborates by noting that it is common practice in Sicily to speak to a stranger in Italian rather than Sicilian. Sicilian is reserved for those interlocutors with whom one is familiar. To do otherwise, says Tilissa, is a social faux pas, especially for her since she is recognized as not being local. She shares this anecdote.
Maybe I was getting to know a person from the outside, a stranger, for example. And before they approach me, I approach them and I approach them in Sicilian. And then I feel a shock if they answer me in Italian. Yes, Maria, what have I done?
This glimpse into Tilissa's portrait illustrates how shaping a post-migration identity can require migrants to navigate a labyrinth of macro and micro level language dynamics. In Tilissa's case, the dynamics of prestige versus regional varieties and the dynamics of interpersonal norms and practices.
The final set of findings concerns the migrants' experiences of living a transnational life. Migrants often construct powerful imaginaries of host countries before arrival, envisioning places of safety, opportunity, and freedom. These perceptions are influenced by transnational media, diaspora networks, and national narratives about modernity and progress. However, tensions can arise when these imagined communities confront the realities of everyday life, particularly in relation to language, which consistently emerged in our data as a key mediator of belonging. Taking our Canadian data as an example, tensions arise between the migrants' sense of the host country as an imagined community of peace, inclusivity, and welcoming versus their lived experience of xenophobia, linguistic marginalization, and the seeking of belonging in their L1 communities. Manka's image of Canada as peaceful, inclusive, and welcoming is juxtaposed with her experiences of hatred.
Sometimes people are haters and there's nothing you can do about it. Just I came to realize in this world, there's people that wake up in the morning resentful, and those ones, you just use polite language to just put them in check.
Rosemary, a 37-year-old mother of three born in Nigeria and living in Canada since 2018, points to reactions to her non-native accent in English.
When I speak to those in the community, they say, "You got accent problem." But when I started ESL, they understand very well, and no need for them to say, oh, what did you say? Or what are you trying to say?
For Moni, it can be easier to find support and belonging in her L1 community.
In my community, persons always ready for us, for lawyers and the other persons. They call us when we came here and the new people came here.
This sampling of reflections suggests that the lived experiences of transnational dislocation can force a reimagining of oneself and one's new context. In this process, language, as a key mediator of belonging, holds the potential to both enable and frustrate integration.
So we'll stop there and we're happy to take your questions and comments.